welcome everybody. Hey, my name is Matt Wilson. I am a resident here of Peters Township. So welcome to the World War II discussion here. You're in for a treat today. So fill up your bottles, fill up your canteens for those that are in the Army and all this stuff, because we're gonna have a great talk here today. Warren and I know each other. We go to Christchurch or Grove Farm, and I saw his presentation about a year ago. And I'm like a Peters Township person. I'm like, people in Peters need to hear his message. So we're definitely glad to have him here. And thank you to Mike Phillips here, who runs this group. We meet the fourth Wednesday of every month, right?
Last Wednesday of every month.
Last Wednesday of every month. So for those who were in World War II, he does a great presentation. So thank you for doing that, Mike. Before we get started, and I do a quick little introduction. We have a presentation that's going to be done from our state representative Natalie Halleck. So I'm going to hand it over to Natalie here. So thank you for being here, Natalie.
Yeah, thank you. We heard about the event, and I wanted to meet you. My staff has met you before doing one of your presentations, and I thought your story was just amazing. My grandfather served in World War II, and I wish he were here to meet you. But I thank you for your service to this country, and thank you for sharing your story not only to our community here in Peters, but I know you've been around and sharing, and I think it's really important that we learn from what you learned over there and what you saw, because we have some issues here in the United States, and I think we could all benefit by coming together and recognizing the sacrifice that you made alongside so many others. So we just have a little memento from the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, thanking you for your service and thanking you for your continued contribution to the community. So just wanted to give that to you.
Okay.
Thank
That's
you. Can we get a picture?
We'll take real quick.
Take one with mine, too,
Yeah.
please.
We're gonna hang out and listen.
Please do.
And then we'll take a few more. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice job.
I could put it down for you over here so you don't have to hold it.
So let me kick things off here. So you're very pleased to have a WWII combat veteran, Warren Goss, with us today. He's going to tell a story. So Warren's nephew, Glenn, is with us as well, and he will assist in today's presentation. Warren was among the first brave young men to storm the beaches of Normandy Beach on June 6, 1944, landing on Utah Beach on D-Day ahead of the first wave. So fighting his way across France into Germany by the end of the war on May 8, 1945. So sit back and soak into this rare opportunity to hear firsthand from one of the most knowledgeable representatives of the infantry experience of World War II in the European theater. Hey, let's give it up to Peters Township for Warren and his nephew Glenn. All right?
Well, good morning. And good morning to everyone. And I notice there's a lot of veterans here. Put your hands up if you've served. Thank you. Thank you for your service, everyone. God bless you all. Well, it is certainly my honor and pleasure to introduce to you my uncle Warren Goss. Warren and my father were brothers. I lost my dad in 2022. But Warren has an incredible life story, growing up through the Great Depression, and he has an amazing military service record, serving in the U.S. Army during World War II in Europe. So our plan here today is to share just a portion of Warren's story. He's got a lot of stories. We can't get them all in. We're going to get quite a few. Got a lot of photographs that we're going to flash up here that complement Warren's story. So we're going to kind of guide through it as we go. And so sit back and enjoy. So Warren, you recently had a birthday on February 9th.
February 9th, that's right.
And yes, Warren turned 101 years old. Yep. And, I'm thinking that a lot of you here are probably wondering, what is the secret? What's your secret? What's the key to living 100 plus years, Warren? What's your secret?
Just keep breathing.
Yep. Keep breathing. Keep breathing. And what else? You got a strong faith?
Pardon?
You got a strong faith?
Yeah, the Lord has blessed me. I know that.
Yep, no
And
question.
He's helped me through all my child life and clean up to this day.
That's right, he certainly has. But I can tell you something else, that almost every single morning, Warren gets up and he goes to the gym, Crunch Gym on McKnight Road. Okay? Gets on a rowing machine, does a couple other things. And then he heads over to McDonald's and hangs out with the guys over there to have coffee. Most of them are veterans. And they try to
Vietnam
solve...
veterans.
What's that?
Vietnam veterans.
Yeah, mostly Vietnam. And they literally try to solve all the world problems right there in McDonald's. And they all have some pretty good ideas, too, I can tell you. So that's the key. So let me start with this. Approximately 16.4 million Americans served in World War II, which represented about 12% of the U.S. population at that time. Now, that included both volunteers and draftees who participated in that conflict from 1941 through 1945. Now, exact counts prove challenging, but today it is estimated that less than 0.5% of World War II veterans are still alive today. Think about that. And as of 2025, the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs estimated that there was around 45,418 U.S. World War II veterans alive. So that number is even less today, sadly. So how blessed we are to have World War II veterans like Warren from this greatest generation in our lives. So tell us, Warren, you were born, where you were born, and where did you grow up?
Well, I was born right there in that house you're looking at. And I was born in 1925. And that's where we had our little chicken farm.
Right in that house, and in fact, all your siblings were born in that house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had 5 sisters. My mother had 5 girls and 3 boys, and one of the girls died and left 4. Is that the right arithmetic?
Yeah, there was 3 boys, 4 girls, but the firstborn was a girl, and she passed away early in her life, sadly.
Yeah, she
But
did.
so this is the chicken coop here
Yep.
that you spent a lot of time in, I believe. In fact, I remember you saying that one of your very first jobs that you ever performed was cleaning out that chicken coop.
Oh, we did that weekly.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Did that a
we
lot.
had 3 coops.
3 coops, okay. And standing in front of there, I guess that's your mother, which
That's
would be
my mother, and I would guess, I really don't know.
Uh-huh.
That was my sister, Betty, and Clarence, the
Yeah.
oldest ones.
Yep, that's them right there. So a lot of work performed there, and tending the chickens is not easy, I don't imagine.
Yep.
Not at all. So this is a photo here of the house years later. Your dad had to eventually add on to that house because he
Yeah.
kept having too many kids. You know, back in those days, they had big families. You know, that's what they did. So he had a lot of kids, but so do you remember when they expanded that house, when your dad actually added on?
Yeah, I certainly do.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Now, when they added on to that house, when the kids kept coming and kept coming, there was no room, so he added on. And that's where we added on to it. If you look at the picture, you can see half of that house, and we had another other half, just like the outside, which made a larger porch. And we dug out that cellar. Underneath that house is enough, it was a garage big enough to put in 4 automobiles with 1 door. And the way we dug out was a horse and scoop and plow.
A horse and a plow.
We'd plow it out, then we'd get the scoops and scoop it out. We had to get into the corners with a pick and shovel and clean that out. And I'll tell you, it would take a hard work to do it. You got to face the south end of a jackass going north all the time. That's what we had to do.
But you got it done, and you expanded
Yeah,
that house.
We got it. Took weeks to do it.
A lot of extra room. So, so the house still stands today. That's what it looks like today. It's on
Yeah,
Clare Street,
yeah.
2800 Clare Street. It's changed hands a couple times. And actually, the one year, years and years ago, it was for sale. It was an open house, and my dad and I got to walk through it. And I got to see the room that my dad was born in. Probably all you guys were born in the same room, I would imagine. So that was a special time right there. So Warren, here's your mother and father, my grandparents, Edward and Phyllis Goss.
Yep, they're sitting in the living room there.
Yep, right there they are. And as you mentioned, there were 7 kids. There was 4 girls and 3 boys in the family. The actual firstborn was a girl. Her name was Jean, and she sadly passed away at a very early age. So here's two photos. The one on the left is sometime taken in the late 40s, and the one on the right, the colored one, is from the early 80s. And besides you, 2 are still alive today. 2 of your sisters are still alive today.
Yeah,
Yeah, so,
that's also that.
yeah,
No more boys.
the boys are gone, except for you. So you're still with us. So, tell us about that picture.
That's my mother. She's sitting on the porch with a chicken coop, and she's feeding my favorite goose. That goose there and I fought day in and day out. Boy, I'll tell you, he ruled the whole farm.
What was his name?
Goo-goo.
Goo-goo.
Call him
Goo-goo the goose. And he was pretty mean from what you told me.
Yeah.
Did he end up being dinner one day?
Huh?
Did he end up being dinner one day?
No, never did. Not that I know of. He never butchered him.
Good.
No.
He was too mean to butcher. He probably wouldn't let him do it, right? So anyway,
I
that's
liked
good.
that goose. We had more fun with him.
Yeah. Was he? But he liked your mom, didn't he?
And he looks like he did.
I would say so. Yeah. So Warren, as a young boy, first of all, they had a very modest child. Growing up as a child, they didn't have a whole lot. They had to make their own toys. You had slingshots. You certainly had horseshoes. You'd make wooden toys. You'd swim in the creek right across
Yeah.
Clare Street. So you kind of made your own fun, right?
Well, we'd take the horse over there, take the horses over there to the team in a scoop, and we'd scoop out Thompson Run Road out that, scoop all that dirt out of there, and then we'd dam it up with those burlap bags,
Uh-huh.
and we'd get a hole in there about at least 12, 13 feet deep.
And you'd swim.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were swimming.
Yeah, well, that's
And,
good. So you didn't have any fancy toys like the kids
We'd
have
dive
today.
off the tree into the water.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. But you
One
did.
kid- One guy was diving off there. He was a foster child and stayed with Aunt Mary, and he dove down there and he come up with a dead chicken.
Okay, that doesn't
And
sound
all
too
the girls
fun.
quit swimming there. They don't swim no more.
Makes you wonder what else was in there. But anyway, but Warren, you were in the Boy Scouts as a young lad.
Yeah.
There's a picture of you. And so I'd like to know, Warren, what did you learn when you were in the Boy Scouts, and how did that really help you in your life, especially when you were in the military?
Well, what I learned in there was how to read a compass. That's what I did with the Boy Scouts. We learned to read a compass, and a lot of things. They had to go camping a lot, and I was good at camping because we lived in a woodly country and we lived in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we did. And then I got on. They had a team. I was on a boxing team there
Uh,
in the Boy Scouts.
Mhm.
And nowadays you ain't allowed to do that. No.
yeah, I
But
remember.
every time the Boy Scouts would get in a fight, no matter what, do an argument, they'd make a big circle and give them each a pair of boxing gloves and let them go at it.
We miss that nowadays, don't we? Yeah.
And then when that was done, they would usually end up friends.
There you go. There you go. We need that too. So I remember your daughter telling me that you'd be spending a lot of time on your bicycle.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you always had your boxing gloves hanging off the handlebars because you never knew when a good fight might break out, right? And Warren was always ready and willing and pretty good at it too, right? So the Boy Scouts, I believe, taught you a lot of good survival skills.
They did.
Yeah.
They did.
So that's a good thing. So I heard you say many times, Warren, that you were not a great student in school. You went to,
Why would you say such a thing?
I just love you, Warren, that's all. And he went to the DeHaven School,
Yeah, he did
which
that.
was on Montreal Boulevard in Glenshaw. It's a picture of it right there. Tell us a little bit about your schooling.
Well, that school had 4 rooms in it. First and second grade, third and fourth, fifth and sixth. They went up to the 9th grade, and they put that down to solid. They added that to it, and that's 2 grades in one room.
Mhm.
And I had trouble with school in the 1st grade. Because I had what they called dyslexia,
Dyslexia?
and I couldn't spell. I still have it. I can make a, you have to read my checkbook and find a lot of mistakes. Anyway, and that teacher, she would beat the hell out of me. She had a rule on it, she'd grab it, slap my hand, and spell C-A-T. And no matter what she said, I couldn't write it. I'd get my letters mixed up. And she tried to beat it into me, and that's what they did then. They didn't teach you nothing. And then I did put up with that, and I figured, I never put up with this on the farm, I'm just going home, so I would go home.
So you
Then
struggled.
they had a truant officer, and they'd send a truant officer to get me. And I could hide in them woods, he'd never find me.
So you didn't spend a lot of time in school. That's the. You struggled in school. You never got past the 8th grade, did you?
No, it took me, I got I think maybe a 3rd grade education.
And it took you 8 years to get it.
8 years to get it, that's right.
Because he kept getting held back and held back. You know how it goes. And didn't like school, struggled, wasn't good at it. But you know what he learned how to do? He learned how to work. He learned how to work hard.
Well, we worked all our life with
Yeah.
kids. We did work.
Yeah.
And Sundays we had off as soon as we got the eggs picked up.
Day of rest. Sunday's
Yeah.
a day of rest. That's right. So here's one of your teachers. She looks mad, don't you think? And I don't know how she got that nickname. I guess the kids gave her that nickname.
That's the one that would beat me. She'd C-A-T, and in some other words, she'd slap your hands and I'd grab the rule and take it off.
Do you know how she got that nickname?
Somebody gave it.
Somebody wasn't you, though. Wasn't you? No. So, old lady Kelly. Okay. Now, Warren, one of your teachers, this is a great story. One of your teachers one day said, Warren, can you get me a chicken?
Oh yeah, that was the guy that had a gym teacher, and he wanted a chicken. He says, can you get me a chicken? Yeah, I get you a chicken. So, at that time, I was peddling papers. At 4 o'clock every morning, I was up, make sure I had water for the chickens, because they take a lot of water. And then I put the chicken in the paper bag in my little bicycle, and off I went peddling papers. And then after that, I jump on a milk truck and deliver milk with a milkman. And there you make a few pennies. And the milkman would always drop me off at school, and I'd grab the paper bag, me and the chicken went to school. And I walked into school, and the kids were standing there, all standing up, pledge allegiance to the flag, you know. I opened the door, says, hey, Mr. Gates, here's your chicken, and I threw it. That chicken flew around the room. Kids were screaming and hollering. Gates ran after me down through the hall, and I figured, well, I just better get out of this school because I run home, and I didn't go to school that day.
So that was another day where he said, I'm out, and he went home. So that's okay. So, you know, Warren, even you started your own successful business, though. Well, first of all, Shaler High School ended up giving you an honorary diploma.
Yes, they did.
How about that in 2017? And they gave you an honorary diploma. And then in 2024, Duquesne University bestowed upon you a Medal of Honor at their winter commencement ceremony
Yeah.
in front of a packed auditorium. We were all down there with them. And Warren was able to get up on stage and talk, and the other gentleman there to the right, he was awarded too. But you know, it's not bad for a guy with little formal education, you know. And he was able to do that because these two people here, his mom and his dad, his mother, he developed a lot of godly wisdom that was instilled upon him by your mother.
Yes, he did.
And very strong work ethic from your dad, your father. Who taught you this. He said hard work, determination, fear of nothing, and a strong faith in the Lord.
He was from West Virginia. He's one of them West Virginia hillbillies. We got one sitting in this room here someplace. I think his name is Bill.
Guilty.
I'm an alumnus.
Me too.
And,
Go Mountaineers.
my dad, one time, when I was peddling papers, a guy named Bill Shaw, I delivered the papers to his house, and he said, "Hey, Warren, you ought to grease that bike up." I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Yeah, take it to parking. He will put the brakes on there, and he will fill it with Vaseline." He said, "It really makes it smooth, and the axles and everything." And he says, "It costs $25." I said, "Okay," so he did it, see. And then took it home, went home, and I was telling my dad that I got my bike greased. And I told him how it happened. I gave the guy $25. He jumped out of the chair furious. He said, "You what? You gave him $25. You don't pay for nothing. You don't do that. And you do it yourself." He said, "Don't you ever admit you don't know how." And he took me down a cellar and turned the bike upside down and made me tear it all apart and put it together. And that's how I learned it.
He was a
wouldn't
strong
stand for
disciplinarian.
it.
Yeah.
He wouldn't stand for that.
Well, that's where you learned that work ethic. I think all the boys did. My dad had the same work ethic. All the guy knew was how to work. That's all he knew. So,
Calvin and I, yeah.
yeah, they worked a lot together. Yeah. So as a kid, you did a lot of different jobs growing up. Tell us about some of the jobs you did. You mentioned you were peddling papers.
I had the morning paper,
Uh-huh.
Pittsburgh Press, then I had the Sun Telegraph and the Post Gazette. I did them all. And I built that. When I first started papers, I got $0.25 for a paper. And I built that up and took more papers on. And I finally was getting 3 cents and take every penny home and put in Mom's jar. That's what I did.
Yep.
And then cut grass, and I shoveled coal.
Shoveled coal with this guy.
Yeah, that's Charlie King. He was one-legged janitor at our school. And a guy named Ralph Stryer, he'd haul the coal in. I got 25 cents a ton for shoveling it into the house.
It's a lot of work for 25
That's what
cents.
I did, and I took that home too.
Yeah.
And I felt good about that.
Yeah. So all the money you made, you took it home, you gave it to your mother, who you loved dearly,
Yeah.
and you really did your part to help supplement the family income.
Well, she's pretty hard on me sometimes.
Yeah, she
We
was.
was putting hay up, you know, and my brother, he did something. He took the tops and dumped all the hay on top of me and just buried me. And
Is that my dad?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
It's Clarence. And I swore at him. I call him a couple names. My mother would happen to be out in the yard. She says, "Warren, you get down to the house." So I did. And I got down there and she washed my mouth out with Phil's after soap. And she just went in there and she said, "I'll clean that out." She said, "We don't use those words here." So that was all done, and I'm walking back up to the barn, and she says, "Hey, Warren, would you like a piece of pie?" I said, "Yeah." And then I went back and I had a nice piece of apple pie, and Clarence was still working. And I said, "Boy, it's worth it."
That's great. That's good. So, December 7th, 1941. You remember that day, don't you?
Yeah, that was
Tell us about
Pearl
that.
Harbor Day.
Yeah, the phone rang at the house.
Yeah, the phone rang and they called me up and says, "Get up there and pick up the papers. The truck's coming in with a load of papers and sell them." So I went up to Mount Royal Boulevard and I was hauling extra paper for sale. Bombs, Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor's bombed. And I didn't know what Pearl Harbor was. I had no idea. But they'd stop and give you a nickel or a dime and never ask for change. And I said, "Boy, we're making money today." And I had no idea what it was all about. I was 16 years old then when they bombed Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, just 16. That was a day that
And then,
nobody would forget that day.
when at that time, then my brother Clarence, he joined right away. He got in the Air Force, and my dad was, and I couldn't join because I was too young. But I went into the Pennsylvania Auxiliary, and I belonged to that. And I had the basic training there, and that basic training was better than what I had in the Army. It was much better, because when I was in the Army, I knew it all. we spend time with that. I spent about 1.5 years there.
What were some of the things they taught you? Do you remember?
Oh, we'd go on maneuvers. They called hand-to-hand combat and how to fire rifles, and we using the old O3s then. And then, if you know where KDKA Tower was in Allison Park, we'd run maneuvers there. Had a blue team and a red team, and we had to crawl through the weeds in the woods, blow up the tower with these powder puffs, and the other guy's supposed to stop you. It was a pretty bunch of guys there, and I feel sorry for the city kids because they couldn't keep quiet, and they didn't like the darkness, and we would get through. I got through all right. I used to get through all the time, but I had patience how to lay there. I could lay down and wait on a deer for a half hour and they'd show up. But the same thing goes in battle.
Yeah. So you learned a lot from the Pennsylvania
And we
Auxiliary.
also grew up the Westinghouse Bridge.
Not
With
literally.
more powder puffs.
Yeah.
That was another maneuver we was on.
You learned how to march. You learned how to listen.
Oh, yeah.
How to take orders. You learned all that
We
stuff.
had hand-to-hand combat.
Served you well.
It was really good training.
Mhm. So then you turn 18. You remember the day you received your draft notice in the mail?
Yeah, from your friends and neighbors.
Is that what it said? From your friends
Yeah.
and neighbors?
Yeah, join the army.
Join the Army.
And greetings from your friends and neighbors.
How'd that make you feel?
I was glad to get away from there. I didn't mind that.
Yeah.
A young kid, 18. It was a thrill.
Yeah. Didn't know what you were getting into, though, did
No,
you?
I didn't.
No. I don't imagine too many kids did at that time. But, so you end up going to Indiantown Gap,
Yeah.
right, for a couple weeks, right? And then
I wasn't even there a couple weeks. Maybe I'll give it a week.
a week. And then from there, you moved on to the Aberdeen Proving Grounds. So that's a
Right.
picture of you there, Aberdeen Proving Grounds. And
Now, the Aberdeen Proving Grounds is where they would give you other maneuvers, and they wanted to find out what you're good for. Because you're in the paratroopers, with the infantry, all the outfits of the Army. And they had a questionnaire there, and you checked off what you can do. And I took my dad's advice, and I never admit that I couldn't do it, so I checked everything I could do. Everything. I couldn't read it.
I couldn't read it, though.
what I was doing. And then the guy says, "Why'd you do that?" I said, "Because I can do anything you ask me to do." And then they ended up putting me in a truck, sent me over to Chesapeake Bay, got in the boat, big rowboat, and they pushed it out, and they had a whole bunch of guys in a big rowboat. And then another boat came over and towed us to an island, and now I'm in the Army, and that is where I had basic training in there. And a little bit of trouble arose there, and they had, I don't know what I did wrong, but I was being punished for something, and I had to dig out a stump. They made me dig out a stump because they was clearing bronze and other things. And they gave me a shovel and a pick and says, "Dig out these stumps." And I said, "Well, I need a hatchet. I need an axe. Get an axe too." Because I did that at home, and I knew how to dig stumps. So I digged a ditch around her and keep cutting them off, and it would. And I got it out there in less than a day, and they were all surprised. And that's the only thing I ever had to do out there, the baddest thing. I did some marching in training with combat too, hand-to-hand combat there. And I had so much training in the auxiliary, they'd give you hand-to-hand combat, I could throw the instructor. And he couldn't figure why I ever learned to do that. And they asked me, "Well, where'd you learn to do that?" I said, "You never wrestled a goat, did you?" That's where you learn it.
now where did they tell the story about when they cut your hair?
Oh, yeah. They cut your hair just before you go overseas, shave it down and put a little bit of hair, you know. And the guy whispered in my ear, and he said, "You got a dirty head. Now wash it for 50 cents. I said, I like it dirty, just leave it there. I never had no money. I didn't have a penny when I was in the Army. We had nothing, and that's what we did.
Just leave it dirty, huh? So, so you learned how to, you went into the 4th Infantry, right?
Yeah, and from the island, we came back and I went up to Camp Shenango.
Mm-hmm.
And then from Shenango, I was there about a couple of days. And there is where I saw my first prisoners, German prisoners. And they had it good. They was walking around and driving the trucks and picking up the garbage and doing all the good stuff. And they had it better than the guys. They had it better than the black soldiers. Black soldiers weren't allowed to do where they was, and I didn't agree with that. I didn't like that. And then from there, I went up to Buffalo, New York. And there's where you give your ammunition, give your uniform, issue it out. I was up there maybe a week, and put us on a boat, and we went down Hudson, I guess it was, Hudson River, into New York. And we were standing in New York, and at that time I was in the 4th Division. That's what they put me in Buffalo. I gets down there, and I had one day off. In the evening, we was allowed to go to town. And now I was really thrilled about that because I was never in New York, and I never seen such damn big buildings. You know, it was something to me. So I went out with the rest of the guys, and I went into the bar room with the rest of them, and I bellied up at the bar like they did. And the guy at the bartender, he walks over to me and he says, "We don't serve minors here. You can't serve minors here." And I said, "Well, I'm no minor, damn it. I'm a farmer." I didn't know what a minor was. Now, we had minors at home. They got coal up there now in the park. And I thought they were the minors. That's what we called them.
And you didn't drink anyway.
I didn't drink anyway.
Yeah. So the next day after that, the next day you guys wake up and you board this ship here,
Yeah, got on the Aquitania.
which is one of the largest.
I was walking up the ramp to that amp, and I stopped to look at Toronto because I was amazed at New York. He was never seen it before. I'm used to looking at trees, and the damn guy had a machine gun there, and he was guarding it. And he always said me, "Get moving, buddy, get moving." I was on the ramp going up to the ship. And I turned around and I said to him, "I'm going over there to get my butt blowed off, not you, buddy." And the argument started. Then they pushed me on up. That was it.
So that was the RMS Aquitania. It was one of the largest passenger ships of its day. It was converted to a troop transport ship for World War II. Of course, you were being sent over to Europe. You remember that voyage across the Atlantic?
It took 14 days to get over there. And they went around all the way up around Iceland. And I remember the ice on the ships. I'd crawl up on deck and see how it is. And the sailors had ropes tied from position to position where they had to go and serve and look for submarines or planes or anything. To keep them from getting slide off the boat because it was really icy. And they had a pretty good hard job there. And that's what I saw when I was looking over there. Then they come back, and by the time I got to Scotland, it was all gone. And that's where we landed in Glasgow, Scotland.
So you snuck up on deck to look at that?
Yeah.
Did you? Okay. You weren't allowed to do that, were you?
Yeah, you didn't do it. You got it. Right.
So where did you sleep on that boat?
I slept, I don't know, but I knew it was right back to the engine room because I could hear that roar, all night long.
Yeah. So you landed in Glasgow, Scotland.
Glasgow, Scotland.
Yep.
And we got in there when we landed, and we walked out and we were standing on a deck. And the women were all dressed in uniforms there, and I don't know what they were. And I was talking to some of the guys, and I says to one of the guys, I says, "Well, you are now in England." And this woman walked over and just up one side of me, down the other. She said, "You ain't on England, you're in Scotland." They were really upset about that. And there's where I saw my first air raid. right there. And everybody was running and getting in a bomb shelter. Now the bomb shelters they made over there, they dig a hole in the ground, big hole, covered with and then covered with dirt. Then they had a ramp going in. And everybody's running into the bomb shelter, and I didn't want to go in there. I wanted to see what a river raid was like. So I jumped in the bushes and hid there, and I could hear the bombs rattling and see the lights going through the sky. But I was so far away, way down south I was, and there was nothing to it for us. That was my first air raid that I saw.
Mm-hmm.
And after, I don't know, 3 or 4 days later, we were on a train, and we went from there clean to the southernmost part of England, down where they did keep the ships. And there's where the fighting was. The Germans were coming in and bombing the ships. It was a tough joint. We gets in there. I was in the 4th Division at that time. I gets in there, and they have a big room, which crowded, and then some officer comes over and he stands up on a little bench and he says, and he explains what he's going to do. He says, "Hey, we're starting a 531st Special Brigade. Does anybody want to join this?" He said, "Special, this is the outfit. It's going to be the first wave of Normandy, and some of you ain't coming back." He said, "This is not a requirement. You got to volunteer for this." So I volunteered. But when he said that, that room emptied out by 45%. All the guys left. And that's where I ended up, in the 531st Brigade, and that's where I did my training. See, they had air, land, and sea in it. We had paratroopers in it, riflemen in it, and Navy guys in it. The Navy guys and the paratroopers would jump into Germany and draw maps and bring them back, and they'd make up a beach. With all our training over there, I knew where every house was, where every road was, and I remember the red roof house. That was the most important thing for them.
That was considered a landmark.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
And we gets in there, and that's what we learned over there in New York.
So you volunteer for the 531st Special Brigade. That's the patches that you wore there. Do you remember why you stuck around in that meeting? Why you actually volunteered
Well,
for
I
that?
didn't know what I was getting into. When you're
Yeah.
a foolish 18, that's what you do.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, it was good training. In 1 year, I had 1 day off to go to Falmouth, across the bay. They put us in a Higgins boat and rowed us over there. And I went into a bar, and all I got in there was a Spam sandwich. That's all I got. That's all I could have. Then there was fighting there between the British and the Americans. Get arguments and fighting, you know. And it's 1 day off that I had in 1 year training. And our training was really tough. We weren't allowed to walk. We had to run every place we went. And we had to climb the hills. And they'd give you big packs to carry and climb cliffs. And I found out we was training with the Ranger, see. And that's what we did over there. And at that time, we'd go on maneuvers. And every maneuver had a different name on it. This particular maneuver was called Operation Tiger. In Operation Tiger, we got on these ships, it must have been 4 o'clock in the morning out in the ocean. And we was going into the beach. It's called Slappin' Sands. Slappin' Sands was the name of the beach. And as we started into that thing, and all the explosions started. Now, I don't know what's going on. The Germans from Cherbourg had the torpedo boats come up to get us from the back. And from what I hear later on, that the English was supposed to be in the back giving us protection, and they never arrived. The torpedo boats came right up and bombed some, I think 2 of our ships, ruined 1, killed, we lost over 800 men there. We lost people from the 531st, the 4th Division, and the Navy. that totaled up to almost 900 guys died in that maneuver.
And that was just an exercise. And the reason they chose Slapton Sands is because the beachfront was very similar to Normandy.
Yeah, that's right, they built it up.
Yeah.
And we had a model of that built in a
Yeah.
shed someplace over there that showed every house and road.
Yeah. So more men died on that maneuver than would die on Utah Beach 5 weeks later. And how sad that was. And that was considered a big failure.
Yeah, so they sent us back to camp. And one day, when I was there, a lady was delivering donuts to the troops. She had a box of donuts. She was going to take them down and give them to the American boys. And the guy was driving a truck. And he picked her up. And I got an article in the paper, from the British paper, and this is what happened. And I still have it. She got in the truck and he rode her so far, and then he said, well, you have to get out now. I got to deliver my load here. He went up in the back on a hill, she says, and she stood there and watched him, and they opened the gate, pulled the tarps apart, and started unloading bodies. It was the bodies that swept up from the beach and putting them in their temporary cemetery. Now the rest of the people who was in there, I believe they ended up in the main cemetery at Normandy. That was and Eisenhower, that was one of his greatest kept secrets. He didn't want the Germans to know how much trouble they caused us.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I
Sad.
got back to camp, well, you weren't allowed to talk about it. You weren't allowed to discuss it with your buddies or anything. And they kept the training going, and that happened. That was around April 28th or 29th, I know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then in June is
Yeah, so there's pictures of the boats that actually were hit during Operation Tiger. And it was a sad, sad, tragic day for sure. So this is a picture of, actual picture of Utah Beach. This was not during the first wave. Warren was in the first wave, actually before the first waves. But that's a picture of what it looked like. So without a question, the soul of the 1st Engineer Special Brigade was Warren's brigade, the 531st Engineer Shore Regiment. It was a unit of nearly 2,500 men who were superbly trained to prepare the beachhead for the arrival of reinforcements and supplies, and to ensure that the men and equipment that arrived on the beach could thereupon get off of it. So this type of work didn't garner a lot of headlines, but there's no doubt that the GIs that would be on the front lines could not have got along without the 531st doing their job. So you had a very, very well trained and an incredible brigade that you were part of.
Yeah, they fought, and we was trained over there. They said if your buddy goes down, you jump over him and keep moving in. Don't give up. That you can't stop. Jump over him, let the medics take care of them when they get there. Don't stop. Jump over them and move in there. Now, get in as far as you can get and clear that beach out and pin down the Germans so the engineers could come in and clear out the mines. And that's what happened there.
So when you hit that beach, there was no one in front of you except the enemy.
And I went in there. I was hiding behind the steel obstacles. And I could see the Germans shooting, and there was a machine gun. You get in the sand, it looked like you throw pebbles in the water. That's what it looked like, all them bullets, you know.
Yeah.
And then I found out he was shooting it high, hitting high, and he was shooting at a mine that was tied to all these obstacles. So I decided to get out of that mess, and I did. And while I was laying there, one of the guys I used to know, he was running up the beach, and he got hit by a 50 caliber and tore off one leg. That boy was so hardly trained, he got up 3 times to run and he couldn't do it, but that's how hard he was trained, not to quit. They would just train you like a dog. Dog would do anything, and that's what they expected.
Yeah. So back up a little bit, Warren. So D-Day, D-Day was looming. It was coming. It was supposed to be on June 5th.
Yeah.
Supposed to be on June 5th, and that didn't happen.
No, it did. We was on the boat though.
Yeah. So you were loaded on transport ships.
Yeah.
You spent days on those transport ships. That's the ship you were on right there. That's the USS Barnett. So do you remember that ship, and do you remember
No,
that?
I don't remember it.
Huh?
I don't remember it. I
No.
remember a few Jeeps on it and tried
Yeah.
with GI, that's all.
Yeah. But it was bad weather, and everybody was
Some of them
getting
were
sick,
sick and
getting
beaten.
seasick. And then, you know, eventually, the weather cleared a little, and Eisenhower gave the order for June 6th.
You go in.
And then that was the day, June 6th. The weather
We
was
went
still bad.
across there. And when we got over to France, why, you know, they can train you for everything except what happens. You know, they can't train you for exactly what happens. In training, in the invasion, I seen a whole Higgins boat blowed up. Just disappeared. There would all them been were gone. They can't train you for that. And they can't train you to think how the other guy's going to act. And it's just a blessing from the Lord. I don't know why the Lord picks out one and not the other. That I can never figure that out.
Yep.
And then we climbed down them boats and get in that Higgins boat. And they'd go out and they just circled around and waited and waited. And we all got lined up and then we went in.
So you told a story about guys that would get pinned between the Higgins boat and the big ship.
Some of them would drop off. And I think they were guys that didn't have our training, you
Mhm.
know. If they'd come to that web, they'd hang on to the foot, they'd just hang onto the rope this way and not grab that because somebody else would step on your fingers.
Yeah. So some guys would get injured because they got pinned between the boats, and then they throw them back up on the boat.
That's what they did.
And
The guy would fall
yeah,
and get in that way. That thing's rocking and crush him down a little bit and then heave him up on deck.
yeah.
Take him back to England.
Maybe that was a fortuitous event for those guys, huh? But
I don't know how many did that.
so that's an image of a couple Higgins boats that would have went into Utah Beach. You were
Yeah,
on
they're
a boat
loaded
just
up.
like that, right? And you remember where you were at on a Higgins
Oh,
boat?
I absolutely do.
Left side, about 5 guys back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and there's a boat right there, loaded to go to Utah Beach. And you mentioned once everybody got into the Higgins boats, they all lined up.
And then we went in,
Mhm.
and we couldn't see the Germans, but they could see us. And some of them got tied up on sand dunes, some of them got blown out of the water, some of them hit a mine. And the guys got in there. And when I got in there, the ramp dropped. And the guys in the ramp never got off the ramp. So I went over the side. I jumped over the side instead of taking the ramp. And then I went in. And some of the guys tried to ride the waves in. That took too long. That's what happened there.
And the water was up
Made
to
it
here
in
on
there.
you.
I was up to my neck in water.
So you had to hold your gun up.
The
and
first
get
time
in
I
there.
got in there, we went over the side. Some of the guys didn't get it deep, and some of them did.
Mhm. So that's a map of Utah Beach. You were supposed to land in the Uncle Red sector, but because of the weather and the beaches were hard to see because the bombardments that happened before these guys landed, the Air Force bombed the heck out of the beaches. There was smoke, and the weather was bad, so they were about 2,000 yards east of where they actually should have landed. So they landed somewhere around that Victor sector there. And so you would have went in right around there, that causeway, or that exit number 2 is where you actually went in. And once you hit that beach, there's no one in front of you except the enemy.
Well, we had a cement wall there.
Yeah, you got to that wall. Well, that's
I
this.
jumped over that wall.
There's the guys. This is again not a first wave picture, but this is Utah Beach. That's what it would have looked like. Imagine.
Yeah, you can see the boys up front there
Yeah.
on the beach already that
Yeah.
laid on it.
That's an aerial view of Utah Beach, again, not first wave. Sometime during the day on June 6th, that was taken.
Boy, there was thousands of airplanes coming in there, a lot of them. It's something you never believed could happen.
Yeah, it
Go
was,
ahead.
so there you go. That's a picture of Utah Beach. So it shows those obstacles that you would have been behind,
Yeah,
and those were called hedgehogs that the Germans placed there. So Utah Beach, there was around 23,250 soldiers landed on Utah Beach on D-Day. About 1,700 vehicles actually landed. They had casualties. They didn't have as many as Omaha. Omaha was the real bloodbath, but still there was around 300 guys that died on Utah Beach on D-Day. The airborne suffered a lot more casualties. 13,000 paratroopers landed behind the Utah Beach. They had about 20% casualty. So they were all scattered. Nobody hit where they were supposed to, but Warren's outfit was to hook up with the airborne.
you know, our orders was to get in as far as you can get after you get the beach. And as the walleye jump. Anyway, we'd get in as far as we could. And our orders was to get up the St. Maria Glees and help the troopers up there because they were in trouble. And I never made it there. I made it to St. Rita Mon. That's as far as I got on the first day. And I crawled almost all the way.
So that's the actual seawall. And we actually got a glimpse of that wall when we were over there in 2024. It's all covered with sand dunes now, but there was a section there you can
Thought
still
it was
see it.
blowed out of there.
Yeah,
I took it way up me.
yeah. So your objective was to clear some bunkers on the beach.
Yeah, right. We did that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that monument there is on the first bunker we cleared. In England, we know where the bunkers were. It was 1, 2, and 3 was most important, they said. And the one was this one right here because it was right on the beach. And the second one was in the beach, a couple of yards, 50, 100 yards better. And that was a communication bunker. And is what that bunker did, the guys was in there radioing all the ships in the back, how to shoot the ships, all them big German guns. And we cleared out that communication bunker, you know, which is still there.
So this is the first bunker. You can see it underneath there.
Yeah.
And that monument on top is the first engineers monument, which recognizes all the units that were attached to the first engineers, which Warren's 531st was the first one you'll see on that. But Warren helped to clear that out.
Yeah.
That's a photograph that we took in 2024 when we were there for the 80th anniversary, and that's Warren walking into that very bunker that he helped to clear. So that was bunker number 1. Bunker number 2.
That's the communication bunker there.
Yeah. So that's what
There's a
that
guy
looked like.
sitting beside it, see?
Mhm.
Now, that building you see beside the bunker was built right up against it, and that's where the officers lived, in that building. And they've been, and now that's called the Roosevelt Restaurant.
So that's a picture from 2024 that we got to go up and see that bunker. We actually got to go in it. The owner of the bunker was there and he opened it up for us. That was pretty cool. And that's inside the bunker. That's Warren inside that bunker. And again, he was part of the outfit that rousted those Germans out of there. And that's the Roosevelt Restaurant, which is attached. We got to go in there too.
Well, I didn't go in there during the combat days.
No, you didn't stop in for a Spam sandwich or anything.
Coffee.
Yeah, but we got to go in there.
That wasn't a restaurant, that was headquarters for the officers.
So that's inside the cafe, and there's every square inch of wall space is covered with pictures, memorabilia, and on the door frame there leading into the back room, and you can see Warren's pictures on there that you guys placed on there some time ago, and so him and along with a lot of other guys are right there on there for people to see. So bunker number 3 was further up the peninsula, closer to Cherbourg.
Yeah, it was. And that was the biggest bunker I ever seen. That was really big.
It's like 3 stories tall, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So the pictures on the left, that's when you took your family back, what, 2001 or something like that. So that's Warren, that's his wife and his two daughters and grandchildren there.
Yeah.
So, and then that other picture on the right, that's what it looks like now. In 2024, we took that. Sadly, it's been let go. It's got graffiti
that
covered
bunker
all
we
over.
knew in England it was there, and we knew what it was.
Mhm.
And was told to take that too, because it was big guns. Anyway, after we started for Cherbourg, they decided to bypass this bunker. So we bypassed it. We didn't go up there and went to Cherbourg to help the 4th Division. And we was in the 4th Division. We cleared Cherbourg out down there. And then we had a day off or something, and they took and made an MP out of me. They opened up the harbor. Cherbourg had a nice harbor for the ships to come in. So they were bringing in all kind of equipment. Trucks, half trucks, tanks, jeeps. They had a name for everything, and they wanted me to direct the traffic. And I didn't know who was who. I didn't know what piece of equipment was supposed to go here and there. They gave me a map, but I didn't know what it was. And I had such a damn mess there, it was terrible. And the captain came to me and he says, "Goss, I ain't gonna tell you what he said. But he says, you get back to the line. You're better off there than you are here." So now we have a meeting. And the meeting is somebody's got to go take that bunker right there, that big one you see. I didn't do that. If they'd asked me to do it, I'd have done it. So they took out one squad. And they went up early in the morning before daylight. They get up very close, you know, and it starts up there. And in the afternoon they came back with the prisoners. And they said, hell, that was a piece of cake. He says, those guys were so hungry and so short of ammunition, he said, they just about quit. The only thing they had to do was clear out of 2 or 3 machine gun nests, which they have built into the town. You can still find them settled over there too.
That's what it looks like inside that bunker, looking out. The guns could shoot all the way down the English beaches. That's how far it could shoot down. It's pretty amazing. It's sad that they let that go, though, because it's covered with graffiti. All the other
That's
things,
inside looking out.
Yeah.
It's slots.
most of the other bunkers and casements over there in Normandy are all considered historical landmarks, and they're well taken care of. For some reason, this one's not. It's way off the beaten path. You got to walk down this. Had to
It
be.
sits on a peninsula.
Yeah.
It's sticking out in the ocean, like, you know,
Yeah.
the land. And it gave protection for everything. But the Germans got pinned down there because they couldn't get in by the water, they
Yeah.
couldn't get in by air, they couldn't get in by land.
Yeah.
We had them surrounded, see.
And then we come to find out that this particular bunker, that the Russians and actually the French people actually built that. The Germans had
Yeah.
occupied the whole area, and they built that thing.
Yeah,
for the
they
Germans.
built it.
Yeah.
They'd have the slave labor.
Yeah, so that's how that went.
Ugly looking guy again.
So let me tell you about this. So, you know, there was a lot of photographs and film taken over there during World War II. They had people trying to document the war. So there was clips that they would shoot, and then they'd send it back home and show them in movie theaters and whatnot. There was this one particular clip that was sent home, and Warren's family saw it at a theater down in Etna. Was it Etna?
Etna Harris.
And the Harris Theater down there, and they right away said, that's Warren, just off Utah Beach. Now, it's never been officially authenticated because there's so many films that I don't think too many of them were. But if you look at that face and that jaw, and you look at a young Warren Goss, I'm here to tell you that that's it. So this is the actual clip. You'll see the guy jump in the foreground. That's Warren, right there. He's got a hand grenade in one hand and his M1 in his other hand. He's crawling through a hedgerow just off of Utah Beach. And that's Warren Goss, and I'm sticking with that story.
We believe you.
Yeah. You remember that? You remember crawling through those hedgerows?
I
I'm sure.
crawled through quite a few of them.
Yeah.
Gee.
So that's it.
And
So
we had
you-
crickets, you know. It was a slow job to do. You really had to do it like that, crawling. You had to, when I crawled up to that church, I'd go a little bit, and people think you just walk in. It don't work that way. And when you hear the noise, you run the clicker twice, click, click,
Mhm.
and wait for the answer. If you got clicked back, he was a friend. And if you didn't get a click back, you throw a hand grenade.
Warren's clicker's laying over there with the stuff he brought, the actual one you carried over there.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
had that on my finger.
Yeah, so one click, if you didn't get two back, enemy, chuck a hand grenade over, right? He's got a hand grenade over there too. It's not a live one though, don't worry.
And over there, the Germans had, when I got in there, the Germans had a lake spill. They'd flood the water, you know,
Yeah.
and I could see the paratroopers, some paratroopers were laying in there. So I climbed up the side of it, and I was in water up to my knees maybe, but I stayed on the bank as best I could. And I crawled into the back of that, got closer and closer to this church.
Right here.
I was in the back of that church. And I'd listen and listen, and I get up there, I could see it now. I can see it's blowed apart. The roof was part had gone out of it. It was all gone when I was there. And I snuck in there, and all the pews were upset. The pulpit was still laying there with the open Bible. And I brushed the dirt off the Bible and looked at it. And then I left there, and from there, made it all the way up to St. Marie de Mont.
So that little chapel is called La Madeleine. Still there. That's a poster that they have on the wall inside the thing. But that's a picture of us standing in front of it in 2024.
Americans all rebuilt it.
Yeah. Cemeteries around it. I read up just the other day that there was a temporary cemetery not far from there, where like 600 soldiers were buried. I learned that. That's what it looks like inside it. So it's still there today. And that's very close to St. Marie du Mont, I think, right?
You know, when we went over there with my family,
Mm-hmm.
had my two daughters, my wife. We walked up to that church, opened the door, and as soon as we did, the bell was ringing.
Something. Yeah.
They didn't have that fence out there then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, that's what it looked like on D-Day. Shortly after D, that might be a day or two after. Those are 4th Infantry troops there, I believe. But again, Warren walked into that right up front. As soon as he hit that, got past the beach, that's what he came across. Pretty interesting. Again, that's the beach. Those sectors there where those guys would have landed. That's a picture of a paratrooper that sadly was laying in the water there, and he saw a lot of that. Those guys jumped, and a lot of them were shot in the air as they were coming down. Some of them were killed outright. Some were wounded, hit the water, drowned. And there was a lot of airborne casualties. And you eventually was able to hook up with some of those guys over
Yeah,
there.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, you actually
Happened to say.
saw the second wave coming in.
You know, this here's a good example of it. I got to what they call St. Marie de Mont, and I got as far as the cemetery there, and I seen the second wave coming in. I didn't know what they were, but I could see parachutes as far as I looked right to left, and it was all floating down there, you know. And I thought, my God, we're in deep duty now. I thought they were Germans. You know, I thought, we're done here, so. When I found out they were Americans, I was much relieved. Well, one guy was late jumping. And he landed, I guess, 20 feet or 30 feet in front of me in the cemetery. And as he's coming down, I don't know how many times they were shooting at him, but he was hanging by, he had his trench knife out already. He was cutting the lines off. And as soon as he got, but I guess 10 or 12 feet off the ground, he dropped everything and got behind a tombstone. And I was laying in the ditch. I didn't know where I was. Nobody knew where they was. And I called him, hey, get over here. So he called him over and he got in the ditch with me. we used to talk in there, and I says, why are you so late jumping out of that plane? Well, he was what you call the jump sergeant, and his job is to make sure everybody's out of the plane, see? And that's what he did. And then that pilot, he told me he got so scared he banked that thing around, he rolled clean back to the tail, and he had to crawl on his hands and knees to get out the door. And that's why he was late. They lost all of his men. So we laid that bitch together, and that's what he told me. He said that pilot got so scared he wanted to go home. So we laid there and talked for a while, and he says, well, I'm going to go hunt my troops. And I said, okay, and I'll go hunt mine. So we left. So I worked my way up a little bit, and I'd run into some more G guys that was a 4th Division. And they got to talking to them, and our brigade was there with the 4th, a couple of our guys, and I found out, and they says, hey, how about going back to the beach and getting some ammo? And I said, okay. So I went back to the beach, and when I got back there, here comes an American P-51 in, and he dove down, and he's doing a victory roll, you know. Now the Germans, Coast Guard, and the Army was all on that beach now. But they thought he was a German. And he went up in the air, and he's flying high up in the air. And they were shooting at him, and they shot him down. Well, the pilot bailed out. And that plane come down, and I was watching it coming, and I figured, boy, it looked to me like it was going to go right into my pocket. And a wing tore off and put him over that way. And he hit the ground maybe 30, 40 feet away from me or something and blew a big hole with it. And when he hit the ground, I bounced clean out of the hole. And I called my hands and knees, and I got into another one. And there was already 2 guys in there. So we all laid there together until all those ammunitions got done exploding there. Everywhere that's blowing off. Because there was a fire in it. Anyway, it slowed down, and I got out of there, and right there's where I started smoking. I never smoked. And I says to one of the guys, give me a cigarette. I don't know who he was. He gave me a cigarette, and I lit it up, and I smoked it like I knew how.
Was that your only one?
No, and after that I kept smoking. And then I went into the dump. They had all the dump there, and they had a guard there at the dump that knew where everything was. And I told him what we wanted, and he says, well, he told us where to go get it. There was 3 of us, and we went in to get it, you know. And the guard says, I ain't going in there, not as long as those 88s are shooting. He says, if we blow up that dump, he says, everybody in this island's going to get shot, blowed up. And so we went in and got it, and out we came. And we're each carrying these cases, and a guy came up in a Jeep. And he said, hey, well, you need some help? I said, yeah, we got to get to St. Rita Mont. So we jumped in there, and it's just a short ways. Put him in a Jeep, and he rode us up there. And those guys were so happy to get that ammunition. They was out of grenades, they was out of rifle shells and every way. And that there was my introduction to France, and I spent the rest of my night in that ditch. Sleeping right in that ditch.
Right next to a cemetery, huh?
Yeah.
You mentioned that red house. You can see where the location of that is. You came across that on D-Day too, didn't you?
Yeah. They
Tell
did.
about that.
Well, I don't know if I was in the right place or not. The guy, it was German officer, it was the first German I had seen that close.
Uh-huh.
And I was with and by that time I was with a couple guys from our brigade, you know. And now they were through Africa, Sicily, Italy, and Tunisia. And I got hooked up with them in England. And when that officer run out, those guys shot him. You know, when he shot, I thought it was aiming right at me, but he hit the guy beside me in the shoulder. And the bullet his coat just turned red, you know, just see it coming. And those guys shot that guy till his nerves shut down.
Just kept shooting them, huh?
Yeah.
That's the first one you saw get shot
Yeah.
right there. But that red house was considered a landmark for you guys
Yeah,
when you were
that
landed,
was-
but
that
nobody
was
could
my
see it.
last,
Yeah. So,
then from there we went back to Cherbourg.
yeah.
And then when Cherbourg was done, I came back to the beach. I had a little bit to do with St. Lo, not much to do there. I helped them out a little bit.
Mhm.
And then back to the beach. And that's where they broke up the brigade. They did away with it.
Mhm.
And they took and put me in the 7th Division. I was in 3 outfits in that army.
Yeah. Before you got into the 70th, though, you were in Cherbourg and you posed for that picture.
Yeah, that was the picture.
Tell us why you
I had
posed.
that picture taken. And that's the picture I sent home to my mother. And I wrote on it, "Hi, Mom, I made it." That was about 30 days later.
And you wanted to pose with your arms crossed?
Yeah.
'Cause you wanted to-
I was trying to imitate my dad. See, this picture is my dad. He was in the First World War, and my mother had that hanging in that living room all the time. And I tried to mock him. See?
Wanted to look like your dad. So you get into the 70th Division. I
Yeah.
guess that you were at St. Lo, right? And then you got back to a beach in a Repo Depot camp, right?
Well, from the beach, I went to a Repo Depot camp, and from that camp to St. Lo,
Uh-huh,
I mean to the 70th.
uh-huh.
There was a camp where all the replacements from America come in, and I got mixed up with that. And I was in there sleeping in these pyramidal tents, 12 guys to a tent, and by this time it would get cold weather was starting to set in. And I met a guy, Tony Flossie. He was from America. He just got there, see. And we sort of got friendly together. And he says, "Hey, Warren, your name's on the bulletin there. You have to go on KP." I said, "I ain't going on KP." He says, "Your name's on it. You have to go on KP." I said, "I ain't going." And we're sleeping in the tent, and here comes the guards out, waking up. They're in the pyramidal tent, and they say, "Where's Goss at? Where's Goss? Go wake him up." I said, "He ain't here. He's over in that other tent." And he went over there, and he wasn't there. And he went over there, and he wasn't there. And I never did go on KP. And then, after that, the morning come. Now's the time to go eat. Tony says, "Warren, you can't eat." He says, "They'll find you out." I know they won't. I said, "Look, everybody looks the same here. Who looks different?" So I went to breakfast with a rustic guy, and nothing happened. And I told him I didn't come here to do dishes. So that's what happened. And from there, I went to the 7th Division. They put some guys in a truck, and we went up toward the beach, and it was up toward the battle, France. And we went off the beach now. We're in France, and you can hear the guns roaring, and the guys were getting nervous. You can hear the shells coming in. They whistle, you know. And I could tell them, "Don't cool down. They're far away. They ain't gonna hurt you." So we got up there, and we went into a house. Stay in a house, which was vacant, you know. We took it over. And we're sitting there, and in comes a sergeant. And he had a question. He says, "Anybody here seen combat?" Now, my buddy, Tony Flossie, that I got hooked up with in that Repo camp, he says, "Yeah, he saw combat. He was in Normandy." And Sergeant Bennett says, "I'll take him." And then Tony says, "I'm going." He needed 4 replacements for his squad. So we went up there, and other guys need so many, and they just distributed it out, like, you know. So that's how I got in the 7th Division.
So Tony ratted you out.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he's in there. But you guys became good friends over there. That's a picture of the 70th Division that you were part of. Bennett's, want to say the nickname?
Yeah, you do that.
Well, Bennett's Bastards. That's what they
That's
call
what they
it.
call them.
And Bennett is right smack in the middle, first row. Warren, you're to his right. Tony Flossie's to his left, I believe. So that was Sergeant Bennett. There's another picture of them. And with the 70th, from that point on, You fought your way across France to the Ardennes forest right before
Yeah.
Christmas.
Well, we went up to Nancy, France,
Mm-hmm.
and we went up to Sterling Window. That was a big battle. That was like, Nancy, France was separated by the Saar River.
Mm-hmm.
See, that was Germany here and France there. And the people up there were close friends with the Germans. You know, it was like a whole different war, a different country too. When I crossed that river and got into Germany, it was like a new world. All the people had slaves. If you lived in a house, they'd have women working for you, make your bed, clean your house. The farmers had about 4 guys for each farm. They put them in a shed, feed them, and they had jumpsuits on with prisoner marked all over them, you know. And the farmers had them, and Americans freed a lot. I freed a lot. We freed a lot of prisoners. Let them loose.
So they were working for the Germans.
Yeah, they
for
all
the
worked for the
Nazis,
Germans.
Yeah. So that's a picture of you at the Battle of Saarbrücken in Forbach, Germany.
Yeah, that was in Forbach. We didn't get to Saarbrücken yet. Saarbrücken was another invasion.
Mm-hmm. That's just a map. You can see
I
where
used to run
Sterling
a lot
Window.
of patrols. My job was to penetrate the German lines, get behind and draw maps, tell them what I think where the machine gun nests are, and where the 88s are set, and how many guys might be in that village, and then bring it back. And I did a lot of that.
So you had some fierce battles.
Huh?
Some fierce battles in Sterling Window
Oh yeah.
and Saarbrücken. Was that where you were trying to sleep on a couch in the house one
Oh,
night?
yeah.
Tell that story. That's an amazing
That
story.
guy saved my life there. I was on patrols and I come back late, and I was seeing a couch laying there, and I was going over to get the couch, and the guy threw his pouch on there, and he laid in the couch. So I pulled the couch out from the wall, and I threw my junk behind there, and I slept behind the couch. I get up in the morning, he was dead. He got 88s were shelling, and he got hit by shrapnel. A lot of guys got hit by shrapnel. And that's what happened there. And then when I crossed the Saar River, there was a battle you never believe. I run a patrol down there. I had Sergeant Bennett was with us. And all we would do is make a noise. We'd holler, bring up the boat. And we'd throw hand grenades down over the bank into the river just to make noise and to find out how much firepower they may have in Saarbrücken there. But we had to cross that river. And one time, railroad tracks were laying there, and we was all laying behind that. And we was shooting over that speed, and they were shooting back with machine guns. And I had a shell stuck in my gun. My dad sent me a pair of gloves, and the glove was a bad thing to have. And I had one shell cocked in the chamber, and I laid on my back. When they got a machine gun, I could see it in there, which made enough light. Well, Bennett was going to throw a hand grenade over the river, and his hand got caught in the railroad with, they had cable for the shifting the tracks, and his hand got caught in one of them, and he dropped the grenade there, and he hollered, "It's a grenade." And I thought he said, "It's a raid." So I turned over my back, and I was shooting into the bank and into the bushes or anything where somebody might be. And that grenade went off, and one kid I see flying over top of me, and it blew up, and it rolled under the railroad tracks like. It didn't hurt nobody except it blew the heel off of one man's boot. That's all that happened there. We got out of that mess. Well, now the time comes to go to Germany. There's a big hill we had to get down, and they had all the artillery in back of us. We're walking down this hill, and the artillery's going shooting over our heads into the Saarbrücken across the river. And it was, I mean, really live and large, and all the guys were lined up. We get to the river, and the engineers, I don't know how they did it, but they got all the rubber boats there, and it gets in these rubber boats, and we're rowing across this river. And I was carrying a 40 charge
Shape charge.
it was for blowing up bunkers. Tony carried the damn fuse. I got over there, and we crawled another little wall, up over the wall, and they had a cross there with that wire wrapped all around it and blocked. And some guy went up and moved it, and it blew up. They had it booby-trapped. And there was a pillbox or a bunker, a German bunker, and the Germans were in there. And I took this, and our job was to blow it out. And I took a shape charge. A shape charge is like a road cone with a big handle on it. And the fuse goes right in the top with a 10-second fuse. You screw it in. So I told Tony, I tied a rope on it. I says, I'm going to lower this down as far as you can reach, and then you put that fuse in there. And he did it, and I said, when you pull the pin, roll away. So he pulled the pin, I swung it over to the door and dropped it, and I rolled away. Well, that thing went off. Then, after that thing went off, I didn't pay much attention to it. I worked my way into Saarbrücken more, and I was laying in a street in a curve in the city there at a corner, and I was looking down the street, and all I could see was tracers going, blue ones and red ones. You know, they were just, and nobody could even walk down there. And I just lay there and didn't do nothing, and then I squealed out of there, and Bennett says to me, Warren, you go back to the beach and get another shape charge. So I did, out to the river. And by that time, the artillery set up their artillery gun there, and the Germans that I had in it was sitting on the bank there. And when I shut that shape charge off, there's so much power in that shape charge when you get it into the door. If it's outside, the vibration of it will just go away. But inside it's bouncing from wall to wall. You get it up against that door. And there was 3 of the guys sitting there, and what their blood was coming out their eyes and their nose, and their cheeks and their ears, and they were just shot, you know. And I didn't like the Germans too much. And I asked them for a watch, and they said, no, I didn't have a watch. And I stuck my gun in his throat. The other guy said, yah, yah, yah. And I took the watch.
Of course, they didn't like you either.
I still got it.
That watch is laying over there.
It's laying over there on the table.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and years go by, I got home, and I used to think about those boys. And I'd pray for them. And I'd pray that the war's over, that their life would be as good as my life when we go home in peaceful times, you know. And I never forgot that. And I still got that watch that I took from him over there.
Mm-hmm.
So we get into Saarbrücken, and we cleared that out. That was a big battle. That was like another invasion. And from there, I fought all the way up to Ardennes, hit Nancy, France, then Sterling Window. Then we get up to the Bulge. And I was in the Bulge up there, and I didn't know what it is. I didn't even know what the Bulge was. I had no idea this coming. All I knew, the Germans were breaking through. And there was one time, we were breaking through, and there was a bridge there. And the engineers were setting up the bridge, see, to blow it up. The engineers were there, and they were waiting for the traffic. All the guys that's retreating, that was the starting of the Bulge. These guys were running across this bridge, you know. And our little squad was there. I don't know how we got there, but that's how far we got. And last truck come through, and we stopped, and it was a black driver. Tried a truck, you know. And stopped him while the engineers blew the bridge, so he could load the truck and get us out of there. And that's what happened there. And we got out of there, and then as the Germans were coming, I don't know where he went. He went back to his supply place, and we were all running because the bulge was starting, and my feet were so cold I couldn't run. And there was a tank laying there, a German tank. So I slid myself under the tank, and Tony took and covered me up with snow, and then he brushed the dirt, footprints away from the snow. And I took off my shoes and I rubbed my feet and got them warmed up, and I could hear the Germans going by, and I could hear the tanks going by. And when they got down there, this is what happened. The Americans were retreating. The Germans were trying to get more guys into the battle of the city. What was that name of that city?
Was that Liège? Was it?
Huh?
Liège?
No.
Okay, that's
Belgium?
Empty my pictures on the wall up there. The Germans are going there to help their troops, see, and that split them up. And the next morning, Tony came back and got me. And he got me, he's a warning. He dug the snow out. He hollered at me, and I crawled out, and I said, okay. He crawled out, and he said, my God, I thought I'd find you dead. And I said, well, he ain't. So that's what happened there.
So you're able to warm your feet
And
up
I
again?
went from there all the way up to the Battle of the Bulge. That was the beginning of the Bulge. And then I got to the border of Belgium. Bastogne is where the big fight was. See, I'm forgetting. And they got up to close to Bastogne, but I never got to Bastogne. But I got to the point where I had to help them. And we were digging the holes in the Starling Woods there in the forest. And there's where we'd lay in the snow. And the Battle of the Bulge took almost a month just to get that settled down. And then he cleared out Bastogne too.
So that's a picture that was taken in 1982 at a reunion with the 70th Division.
Yeah, that was
So you can see Warren, bottom row left. Next to him is Bill Fuhrer. Behind him is Tony Flossie. Now, Bill Fuhrer, Warren and Bill saved a man's life over there. They were on a patrol, and he stepped on a shoe mine, and it blew part of his foot off.
That wasn't Bill, it was another guy.
Well, no, but Bill helped you carry the
he
gun.
was
Tell
there.
that story, then
Yeah.
we'll move on.
Well, the 70th Division had a spearhead penetrated into the German lines. They had him to go into that. And we went in there, and I remember when marching down the road trying to get into town, they made me, Bennett says, where are you getting the left flank and guard? So I had to walk through the woods on the left, looking for machine gunners that might be laying around. And on the right, it's sort of a clear field. There wasn't much there, and we was going down there in the daylight. And a deer come out, and he's running across that field. Everybody's shooting at him. Deer run up in front of the troops, and nobody ever hit him. And how the hell they win a war like this? So I didn't get a chance to take a shot at it, but that's what happened there. And then we get into a village, a German village, and a German patrol happened to be and penetrate our lines. And they sent me after it. They said, Warren, you go on and get that patrol. So I took, there was about 5 guys I took, you know. Bill Fuhrer was one, Tony Flossie was one, Bill Holt was one, and I can't remember the other one. And we went out there, and we're marching and walking, and it's dark. We couldn't find them, running to roadblocks, we worked our way through that. And I said to the guys, we're never going to find these guys. I said, just forget it, let's turn around and go back. Well, what they did was outsmarted us. They laid in the side of the path, the little road there, and then they come out and they set shoe mines on the road. They knew we'd be coming back. We're walking back, You know, we think we're in good shape because we didn't get to the patrol. And the guy in front of me, he stepped on a shoe line. He blew up, and he knocked me down. The guy in front of him fell down. And they were laying there on the ground, all four of us, or five, whatever it was. And I says, don't move, don't nobody move. And I says, scrape out in front of you, feel though, and see if feel it for the bottom out. And so they did. And then you find a shoe box mine, you throw it in the woods, you know. They were just little boxes. And then this guy got his foot blowed off all the way up to the top, you know. His foot, I guess, was still hanging there, but it was all shredded. And we carried him back by hand. We made seats like this. And we were taught how to do that. And then you'd put your hand there, and that made a seat for him, and he'd put his hand around our neck, so we'd carry him back. And we got back to the front line, and then we got a medic guy there, and he gave us one of those beds to carry him in. We laid him out there, and he bandaged his foot up so it looked like he had it, and we poked him in the leg with these shots we used to carry. And we carried him back through the enemy lines again. It was dark, and it was really dark night. And there was more troops coming in as we were going out, and we had to ask them to make way to get a wounded man through. Well, we got back to the end, and we saw a house laying there. We laid the guy in a ditch, and it was dark at night. And so we snuck around, and I snuck around the house to see who was in there. And here they were Americans in there, and they were from the artillery. So I went in there and told them what we had. And I said, get a Jeep up here, get that man out of the ditch and take him back. And the four of us fell down on that bed, and we just slept the rest of the night away, packs and all.
Saved his life.
Yes, he did. And, well, they put him in a Jeep and took him away, you know. And now we got to go wake up. We woke up, and we had to go back through the lines again, and it was just getting daylight. And you know what the Lord did? The Lord put so much fog out there, you couldn't see 10 feet in front of you. So I told the guys, I don't know why, they'd always give me a lead on the damn patrols. I told the guys, I says, now, for God's sake, don't breathe hard. They even taught you how to breathe. Don't cough, don't sneeze, don't do nothing, just far enough to see the guy in front of you. So we walked all the way back through where the Germans were to the side, and they never seen us. Never seen us. And we made it back to headquarters.
You received the Bronze Star for saving that man's life. He was from Scranton, Pennsylvania, and Bill Fuhrer was from Saxonburg.
Saxonburg.
Yeah.
I didn't know that
Yeah.
until one time, but we had an Army reunion, and then the next reunion, him and I went together.
Yeah.
And then I met Tony Flossie there.
Yeah, that was an emotional meeting, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah. So, well, that's just a picture of what it would have looked like over there in those hedgerows and so on, and the battles you were in.
Let me tell you a little bit about Bill Fuhrer. Now, he was a good guy, and he tried and tried. He would leave things bother him. During civilian life, when I was inspector for the bank, I worked in Saxonburg. The bank that I was working for was in Saxonburg. And Bill Fuhrer lived in Saxonburg, which I never knew. And I seen him walking past the shop through the back of the building, and he's going down to his house. He's crying like a baby, just crying and crying. And I says, Bill, what's the matter? And he was in a lot of battle, too. He's all worn. I just can't take it. I just can't take it, you know. He passed away. He's gone, too. It's a sad thing.
Yeah.
It's something that's like a tattoo. It sticks to you, and by God, you can't get rid of it.
So Warren, you were in Frankfurt, Germany when the war ended.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
But you know, when I was in the Oregon forest, we lay in those holes, those Germans would come in and open up shells, and when you get a cold winter night, and I was warm most of the time because I took the German coats off them. They had big warm coats. They would really dress well. I'd take the coats off. I told the guy, you don't need it no more. So I'd take it off, and I'd line my foxhole with it. I'd put one over top of me, and I'd put my blanket over me. And some of the guys says, Warren, you're crazy. If those Germans get you, they'll sure as hell going to shoot you. If you got your clothes in there, I said, well, they're going to have to get me. I made it through there. And they were really warm jackets, too. And a nice cold night, bitter, bitter cold. Nobody's fighting anybody. And the moon is shining. And a guy was playing a mouth organ. And I'd hear it night after night. It was a good night. And he would always play the taps. And I know the Germans can hear it as well as we could hear it. And that's something I'll never forget. And that sound floated through the woods as the taps.
Hmm.
He was 10 taps with the guys he lost.
yeah, yeah. So you want to tell us about when the war ended for you?
Well, when we fought through the Siegfried line, finally got back into Germany, and I ended up in Frankfurt, Germany. That's where my war ended. I was at the train station in Frankfurt, Germany. I got upstairs where that bed had a glass roof on it, you know, and the Germans were down there, and I was throwing hand grenades down there to greet them. And made it through there, and that's where the war ended for me. And I ended up in the hospital. I think it's Langewen, which is very close to Frankfurt. And I don't even know why I was there. I would have hurt that much. And the guy said, Warren, you go out to the gate, you be guard, you would take a guy with you. And so nobody gets out. They had Germans and Americans all on the hospital there, and the girls were working on them all. And I'm sitting there at the weeds in the shrubbery, like, you know, and just sitting there as night falls. And they had an electric tire, and the lights are on. Everybody got lights. The war's over now. See, must be over for 1 or 2 days. And I see that big tower up there had a big transformer in it. And I says to one of the guys, it was too good, I says, see that tower out there? You watch this. And I emptied out my gun and put an AP in it. I took one shot at that transformer, and I hit the transformer, and I can see the lights in town going blink, 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 like the hot water hose run out of water, you know. Everything went dark again. And you know, there was a guy sitting behind me that I didn't know, and it was a German. And he spoke, "Das ist gut Schusten."
He was all bandaged up and
Yeah, I
bad
turned around and
shape.
looked, there he was, all bandaged up, and he was a wounded guy, you know.
So they sent you out to take guard duty at the gate of that
Yeah.
hospital, and that's when that happened. So that was his last shot.
Yeah,
How about
last
that?
shot in Germany.
You always were a good shot. So anything else you want to share before we kind of go into our closing? Any other stories you want to tell? I mean, you took that Mother's Cross off of that one woman, the Mother's
Oh,
Cross.
yeah.
That's over there too. You can see
It's
that.
over there. When I'd go on patrol, you know, when they take a town, you'd have to clean it up, and you'd search for snipers, and snipers were picking off GIs, and we'd clear the houses out. So at house after house. One house, I'll tell you about, I did. Guys cleared it out, and they left, and I was sort of lagging backwards. And I heard some German voices in this one house. And I thought, this has got to go, and I was by myself. And I'm thinking, well, if I leave them go, they'll be shooting the snipers, they'll be shooting soldiers. So I loaded my gun up, I have 8 shots. I shoot in every damn window, and I made all the noise, put another clip in, made some noise, made them think there's a lot of people there. And I put another clip in, and I run over and shooting as I'm running at the doors and the windows, and then I had a grenade, and I threw it in the room where the Germans were. I busted in the door, went into that room, and it was quiet as it can be. And I heard this whimpering. And there was a mattress and springs and mattress cleaned up against the wall coming, and I pulled it over, and there sat a woman with 2 kids. And that's what I heard. I walked out of that house, I was crying. I was sitting on a stone walk there. And Bennett come over and kicked me, and he says, "Get moving because you're nothing but a damn sniper bait." That's what happened there. And I felt so bad, I never forgot that. I even had bad dreams about that.
And then you took the Mother's Cross off of that woman that was pushing a baby carriage.
Yeah, that's another one.
Yeah.
She was pushing a baby carriage through the town there. And I stopped her, looked at her, and she spoke to me in Germany, and I don't know what the hell she said. I took it off, and there was no baby in the crib there. There was a little baby in there, but no ammunition. Because I pulled the kid aside, looked underneath, I didn't see anything. And I looked at her, and she had this cross, a beautiful cross hanging on her neck. And I looked at that, and I grabbed that cross, and I pulled it off of her like this, and let her go. Because they were sneaking ammunition to the snipers. And we had to stop. And she had this German cross on her. And I got it laying over there now. And it's what that cross was. She got a reward for the Deutschland Mother. And she fertilized by all the SS troopers. And I got that cross laying over there now. It's signed by Adolf Hitler.
My gosh.
So these guys were told they had to inspect everything because anything Nazi, they had to take it. That's why you had to look at everything,
Yeah.
including baby carriages, whatever. If you went into a house, you saw something, you had to inspect it.
One time I had a rookie guy with me, and there was of Adolf Hitler's head standing there, you know, beautiful sculpture of him. And the kid wanted to go get it, it looked like gold.
Uh-huh.
Don't you touch that damn thing. I said, it might be booping. No. And this was from one house to the other.
Yeah.
In the window. And this other kid, he wanted it bad. You ain't getting it. And you watch this. So I took a shot at it and it rode the whole damn wall out.
Oh, my. Lots of stories. Can't tell them all, but you told a lot of them. But we got to get to this one here. So we're going to look back now a little bit, okay? So this is shortly after D-Day. Warren and 2 other soldiers were on a night patrol. And it was near a farmstead in Normandy, countryside.
Yeah.
And you stumbled across some German infantry, and you got caught up in a hand grenade fight, right? So that was a hand grenade, U.S. hand grenade, and that's one of the potato mashers that the Germans threw. So you got into this hand grenade fight, and I'll let you take it from there.
Well, we were in this battle with the Germans. There was about 3 of us, or 4 of us, out on a patrol. I was always a patrol leader, and I was trained to go behind the enemy lines and do that. And this was right in Normandy Beach. And these guys are having a hand grenade fight, and I mean, it was close. And so I'd take a hand grenades, and I wouldn't throw it at them. I'd throw it over there to get their attention, and that's crawling, and I'd throw another crawling. Their mind was what's going on there, see. So I did get away from them. And I got into a farmyard. And I don't know where I'm at, because it was dark. And I'm laying in this farmyard, and it was like a stony place. 2 girls come up to me, young girls. Come. She says, the Bosch is here. They're sleeping in the house. The Bosch is here. They call it the Bosch. She says, I hide you. She took me and hid me. went up a ladder into this door, and there's where I stayed all the rest of that day and for most of the next day. And I stayed in that thing, and I came back down. And then the morning or the afternoon or sometime, one of the girls come over and just come, "I'm gone, the boss is gone, now you can leave." So I did. Went back to the beach at that time. At that time they had the tent set up and the supply dump set up, you know. And I was thinking about that farmer's place there. There's a window I went in right there.
That's the window. So he climbed the ladder up there. So
She had a ladder up there for me. Anyway, I went out back to the beach, and I went to the supply tent to get some food I was going to take back to that farmer. And I found they wouldn't let me in because you had to have a certificate to get in there to say I'm authorized to do this, see. So I hung around about an hour or so, and I cut a little door in for myself. And I got in and I grabbed 2 cases of C rations or K rations. I don't know which one they were, but I had 2 cases. I carried them back and I went back to the farm. This is about a week later. Give them to the farmer, and oh, was he ever happy to get the food. Because those Germans took everything. There's the old farmer there. You know, and he would, I sat at his dining room table in that barn where we was. I guess 15 minutes. He talked to me, and I talked to him, and nobody knew what anybody said. So then he starts telling me about his dogs. And I found this out later. And he trained dogs, and he had a dog that would sit up on the table there, and the dog had a hat on, or I mean,
sunglasses.
And he had sunglasses on and smoking a pipe, you know, the dog sitting there, see. Well, I told that story at home, and no one would believe me that happened. And I began to think maybe it didn't happen, see. Well, what, 81 years later?
Yeah.
81 years later, I go over there, and I tell this story.
It was actually during the 80th when we were there. It was during the 80th when we were there.
And during the 80th, and the guy told me, "Oh, I know that people, they live right up the next farm up." And then I went over for the 81st, and there I found them. I went up there and I found Mary Suzette and Simone. The one sister died.
Yeah, so the one on the left is Marie Sousef, one on the right is Simone, they're sisters. I think Simone was 15,
Yeah, I
and
think
Marie
so.
Sousef was 16 when that happened, and you never did see them again.
And so 81 years later,
Yeah. So I'll show you the picture. So
I got to meet him.
let me add to the story a little bit if I could. So we were over there for the 80th, and Warren's telling the stories where the people we stayed with, we were the host family over there, okay? And the lady we're with, she says, that barn, I know that barn is right across the way. It's close to where we were staying in St. Germain, Fairville, and they were close by. And she said, I think that one of the women is still alive. So somehow she connected with one of our family members on Facebook that lived in West Virginia, and that's how we learned about the story. So one thing led to another. They go back last year for the 81st. He got to reunite and meet Simone at the exact farm. And she's 96, so that's her. That would have probably been a ladder that he would have climbed up. But here's a video of Warren. This was last year. That's the. So the farm's owned by different people now. I don't know if you can hear that or. That's the exact place.
Here, Dad. Wait till I get a pool over here. Hold on, all right.
Okay. confirmed to me he was upstairs.
He was upstairs.
But there was no staircase, so in fact they had the scale, probably the scale to climb up by the window.
Yeah.
That's Warren's daughter, Ronnie.
He was very...
She speaks fluent French, so it was very helpful.
Yes. Because there were no stairs, il n'y a pas d'escalier ici.
Pas d'escalier.
C'était seulement le foin.
C'était des bêtes, donc les Allemands ne le cherchaient pas. Dans la maison, ils auraient cherché.
Oui.
So while we're over there, he gets to reunite with Simone. That's her. She just turned 96 years old. And while they were there, they gave Warren a little photo book. It's over there with all these black and white pictures. Some of them you saw. You know, they had a picture of the dogs. Well, that's Simone. She celebrated 96. There's a picture of the dogs. The dog has sunglasses on and a pipe in its mouth. Totally authenticated the story. And Warren told that story for years.
Yeah.
But, oh, the dog had a pipe in its mouth. Oh, that's great. That's great. But, you know, it's the absolute truth. And you talk about a wonderful human interest story. So there was an article written about it. It's out on the Veterans Breakfast Club website. If you go out there and go into their blogs, you can see it. That's pretty cool. But what an amazing story that was. And hopefully we'll get to meet her again, because we're going with Warren this year again. My wife and I are going to go. Warren's going with his 2 daughters again. And we're going to be heading over to Normandy, God willing. And we leave May 28th to come home June 9th.
You know, when I was over there, the first time I met her, after all those years, my youngest daughter, Paula, she was wearing a necklace, you know, and had a heart on it. And she says, Dad, she took it off, she put it in a little paper bag or something, she just give this to her. So I gave her the necklace. And if you show her that birthday party, you know, you can see that necklace if you look real close.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same one my daughter gave her.
I'll be darned. I didn't know that. Yeah, Simone Philippe.
Like, can I get a picture?
You know, when
Sure.
she was there, and everybody was there was crying, even I was crying.
Yeah, you
To
guys
meet her
got to
for
spend
what
some
they
time
did.
together. Yeah, it was amazing. So we're going to hopefully pray that we can get to see her. So we're going to come to a close here, but that's the first engineer's monument on Utah Beach. That's the one that's directly above the bunker first bunker that he cleared. And that's a monument that you're pretty proud of. You'll notice all the sides have all the units that were connected to the first engineers. And you know what's on the top there? 531st Engineer Brigade. That was Warren's brigade. That's a picture that we took in 2024. That's Rhonda, his daughter, and myself. We're standing on Utah Beach with him 80 years to the day that he landed there. So, Warren, when you landed in England, I'm going to let you tell this story.
Yeah, when I was in England and watching the raids on the ships, the Germans there, you know, I sent a letter to my mother about the guys that's feeling odds, and we don't know. And I says, I don't know who they are, but, and then I told her how we got through Cherbourg and we're safe now. And she sent me a letter back, and she says, Warren, this letter was meant for you. It was written hundreds of years ago. Psalms 91. And if you read that Psalm 91, and that's just what the Lord has done for me, every word in it is true that He has done for me before I ever did it. And He ends up with a long-lasting life.
Yeah, if you get a chance, come home today, read Psalm 91.
And I'll tell you, you talk to the Lord, He'll guide you through life. And I believe that with all my heart.
Mm-hmm. The last verse says, He will call upon me and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. That's how it ends. So Warren is 101 years old.
Yeah.
And he had 74 years of marriage with his wife. She passed away,
I call it 75.
75. She passed away September 18th of
That was
24.
about 2 months short.
Yeah. Well, that's a picture of you surprising your mom when you got home.
Yeah, when I got home, she didn't know it. And she finally had to work in a chicken coop. She never did.
Yeah.
You get all the boys left,
Yeah,
and I walked up behind her and gave her a hug.
yeah,
And if she's seen that picture with all the rags in her hair,
yeah. So, you know, everywhere we go over in Normandy, I mean, people want to see these veterans everywhere we go. I mean, you'd be surprised. There's thousands upon thousands of people, and they just want to see them. That was the 75th anniversary there. You may recall that one. 24, we were there. That's President of France. Personally talked to Warren. He got to personally meet the King of Denmark. The
yeah,
Danish Premier Mette Frederiksen. That was at the
they had a special meeting for him.
museum in Utah Beach. It was like, okay, we're going to sit back here and watch. Here they come walking in, and they spend a half hour with you.
They
And
cleared the whole museum out. There was nobody there.
Warren told them what they needed to do to fix their country. And you know, the most special part about Normandy is the young people over there. I mean, they don't forget in Normandy.
This little girl here sent me a message home when I got home. You know, and then she was sitting in the grass and she's talking French to me, and then she gives me a kiss goodbye, you know.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
In Vietnam, I served with a William Bill Goss. He's from Boston area. Are you related in any way? Would you know?
I don't think so. I
He
don't.
was wounded really badly. He lost an eye.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't sound familiar.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Great man. He's still alive. He's
Oh.
one of my best friends.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I had a George Goss lost because of my dad's brother's son.
He was in the Korean War.
Huh?
Korean
In
War.
the Korean War.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a
Thank you, Mr.
special
Goss.
picture.
It's nice
Thank
to
you.
go,
Welcome. So we're almost done here. That's a special picture there that we love, and that's the people in Normandy. They teach their people to not forget, especially young people. They do not forget, and we literally, I think, saw more American flags waving in Normandy than we see over here when they were over there. And you know what? That's kind of sad. You know, I want you to think about that. You know, they just don't forget. That's what it looks like over there. People everywhere wanting to get around these veterans, touch them, handshake, kiss, hug, on a card from them. That was taken in Conneaut, Ohio D-Day a few years ago. That was a funny picture. Everyone wanted to see Warren, including this character here. Wanted to get a glimpse of Warren. Recognize a couple people there, I'm sure. You know, Warren talks to kids a lot. He goes to the Heinz History Center several times a year. He goes to schools, tells a story. Most of the kids have never heard it. Warren's doing his part to try to share that history. And there's some other pictures that we like. That landing ship craft LST 325 that was in Pittsburgh not too long ago. Did you guys, anybody get to see that? That was so cool. As hard as it was to climb up that thing, he climbed up, walked through it. The bottom right picture, that's a plane ride that we were surprised with in 2024. We were over there, we were in Cherbourg, and they surprised us with a plane ride. Just no normal plane. That plane there was the lead plane that flew across the English Channel on D-Day. Called That's All Brother. It's restored by the Commemorative Air Force. They have a whole fleet, including Placid Lassie. They got a whole bunch of other C-47s. So we got to fly on that plane. We left Cherbourg, flew down all the American beaches, started the cemetery, turned around and came back. It was about a half-hour flight. Sat in the same seats that those paratroopers sat in on D-Day, and it was amazing. Truly amazing. Once in a lifetime. That's at the cemetery at the Omaha Beach. Here's Warren and his wife, Mary, 74 years of marriage. You know what she said to him on her deathbed? She said, Warren, don't stop. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep telling your story. That's why he's here today. He keeps doing it.
Mr. Goss, the reason why we thank you, because the reason guys like you are around is because we're able to be here today, because of guys like you. Thank you.
Let me end with this. 9,388 military personnel were laid to rest at that cemetery on Omaha Beach. It's called Colville-sur-Mer above Omaha Beach. 307 graves are marked unknown, and another 1,557 are missing. So, and millions of others that are buried all over the world. So we should always remember the true cost of freedom and liberty. It's our duty to steward this freedom and liberty that so many fought and died for. And as I mentioned at the beginning, there's not many more of these guys left and women left. So we got to remember that, and someday we'll only read about this in a book. So you have an opportunity today to hear directly from somebody that was there. I hope you enjoyed today's presentation. It was our honor to be here. And let's just remember that history didn't begin yesterday. We stand on the shoulders of those who fought and sacrificed for the very freedom and liberty that we have. So thank you. Hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Hey, I just want to say to Warren, thank you, sir, for your service. Thank you, God. Thank you for God having you. And wanted to give you a small token since you're down here in Peters Township land. Sarah's candy is a special treat for us.
Oh yeah.
So if you haven't had this, you have something to go home with to eat.
It so happens that I love candy.
Okay, good. We picked well. So thank you guys so much for coming.
Thank you.
on here. This
Thank you
was
for
an
having
honor.
us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
an honor. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah. Any questions? Yeah.
Would Mr. Goss do us the honor of leading us in a Pledge of Allegiance? There's a flag at your left shoulder.
That would be wonderful. Pledge allegiance, Warren. Got the flag right behind us.
Okay, go ahead, let's do it.
You okay? You all ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.